Hey guys, welcome to Almost 30.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. We're so glad to have you. If you're new to Almost 30, welcome, everybody. Krista and I have been doing this for nearly 10 years now, and it's been a joy and such a journey. We started when we were in our kind of late 20s, just really going through it. And it's really evolved into a weekly conversation, whether it's just us or with a guest, about relationships and just growing, self-development, health and wellness. And it's been so fun to grow alongside you all. So thanks for being here.
We love you guys so much. It was such a pleasure and a delight to see you on tour. So a few months ago, we released our book, Almost 30, which was basically a culmination of our entire experience with Almost 30. We have insight and wisdom from our guests from the show. We have very vulnerable, honest stories. And then we have tactical tools and resources to support you in navigating times of change and really figuring out who you are and who you came here to be. And what was beautiful about that process on tour was just being with you guys in person and connecting a community. And it was so much travel. It was like, I need to airport food detox. Like I think I had 14 different. My
Bars.
meal was like perfect bar. No, what do you mean? I would have 6 bars a day. I would have perfect bar and a Koya shake like every day, maybe twice a day sometimes when we were traveling. It was so much. And so it's been nice to be home now and, do a loving reset. I never want to be someone that's like punishing myself or restricting or anything like that, because there's no point. This is life. It's up and down. We kind of are in different phases and spaces with our body and the way that we eat. But it's been beautiful to have the opportunity to really just nourish myself and really just take care of myself since I've been home.
Yeah. I always find that I'm always very curious to see like how my body feels when I finally land home based on nutrition or how I've been sleeping, or, maybe tension in my body from like being on planes or, whatever it is. And it wasn't the worst. I think like our first tour was one that we like really truly burnt out in, but I definitely felt a difference in terms of like how the nutrition affected me. I think we were busy and focused on other things that I wasn't prioritizing that. But it's been really nice to like kind of relook at my supplement stack, but then also like the protein powders I'm using and what I'm using for brain health and like cellular health. I think at this time in my life, I'm much more focused on like what is happening on a cellular level, what is making me feel satiated and strong. And I have to shout out Puori, and we're talking to the founder today, but I just, as someone who's kind of obsessed with quality and like the ingredients and things, I just really appreciate how diligent they are with their testing. A lot of these supplements and protein powders can have heavy metals and just things in them that should not be in there. And they are one of the only brands that has very extensive third-party testing, and every single batch is tested. So you can literally like scan the bag and know exactly what they found and the levels and everything. But I got back on my shake game first thing in the morning, kind of going back to like Kelly LeVeque days of like Fab Four smoothie. And I've been using the Puori whey protein. It's a pasture raised whey protein in their bourbon vanilla flavor. Chef's kiss. It is so delicious. I'll put that in a shake, but then I also like put it in, I have 1 cup of coffee in the morning and I'll put that in there, as well as some like MCTs and coconut creamer. And it's phenomenal. So that has really helped me to like really satisfy my hunger first thing in the morning, kind of start off on the right foot, getting protein in my body. And then also another game changer, I feel like, because I forgot it on tour, was my magnesium. And I really love their magnesium. So I'll take that generally before bed. And it's just great for muscle recovery, for relaxation, just getting really deep sleep. It's great for digestion. Most people are, and great for brain health. And most people are deficient in magnesium. So to get back on that felt really good.
If anyone's listened to me as a guest on any podcast, I always talk about magnesium. It's improved my mental health. Like I believe if people get the right magnesium levels in life, everything changes. It's helped me
Yeah.
so much with my anxiety, mental health, sleep, digestion. So that is like the number one thing I recommend for everyone. Most people do need magnesium, and if you have too much, it's one of those in your body that it can release through your urine. You basically pee it out. So you can't necessarily have too much. What I've been using from Puori is the creatine. So this is the
Mm-hmm.
one thing that I have been talking about so much in addition to magnesium. I think my three superstar things that have changed my body that I can always see an impact of is collagen. I also use the Puori collagen, and then magnesium, and then creatine. Creatine is the most studied supplement. It is so helpful for brain health, for muscle growth, for recovery. It felt like it felt like it was the missing piece to really seeing results from the heavy lifting that I've been doing. So I've been lifting for the past year now. I've just been going to the gym 3 to 5 days a week consistently. And I will have creatine almost every time after my workout. And I feel sharper during interviews. I feel like I have less soreness. I feel like it's helped my muscles actually grow. And so if you are someone that's working out very regularly, high intensity, you're at the gym a lot, I highly suggest using creatine. And the reason why I love the Puori creatine is because it has taurine in it. So creatine on its own is very impactful, but when you add the taurine, it's so much better. It really impacts, or it really helps the taurine really helps the product be absorbed in the body much better and really kind of takes the effects to the next level. So creatine on its own doesn't really get digest as well as creatine with taurine. So that's why I really love this one. Also, it's not flavored. So I just basically put a scoop in water. I'll put a scoop in my shake. I'll put a scoop in a tea or whatever, and you can't taste it at all. It doesn't even taste metally. So it's an easy something to add to my diet on a daily basis, just post-workout.
Yeah, I was talking to Oliver about this in our conversation today, and yeah, creatine seems to be kind of like the trendy supplement, but for good reason. And I was talking about just my experience with like brain fog and postpartum, and yeah, just not feeling as sharp. And creatine has made an insane difference. So I didn't actually realize that about creatine when I first started using it, because I was like, oh, it's just like for muscles and like, people who go to the gym or whatever, but it's incredibly impactful for brain health. So that's been amazing. But this conversation today, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, so are you go ahead? No, I'll go. I was going to say
No,
like
no, no,
what we're doing post tour to kind of get back on track with this. So you said the shake. I guess I talked about the supplements. Okay, that's good.
do we want to say things that aren't
Yeah,
Puori
yeah.
oriented? Go ahead.
So I know you're doing the shake in the morning. You'll have the whey protein shake, which is such a good way to balance your blood sugar to get that protein in. I eat as soon as I wake up. So I eat at 5 a.m. sometimes because I wake up so early. And I think for me, having a really big, nourishing breakfast has always been something that's really helped me with food. So I'm someone that eats big in the morning. I'll usually have 3 waffles with peanut butter and a protein shake. So I'm having like an 800 calorie plus breakfast. I'll go work out, and then I'll usually have a smaller lunch and dinner. For me, that just works. That's what feels really good. My cortisol's highest in the morning. I'm, moving the most in the morning, and then I move later in the day. So first of all, when I get back on track, it's like allowing myself to understand my natural rhythms and what works, and then working with that rather than trying to change every aspect of myself. So I'm not going to make myself stop eating breakfast and then start eating dinner if that's not my normal flow, but I'll find ways that I can just naturally bring in more water, bring in more greens, adding lemon to my water, adding more color to my diet, eating more meals at home, walking more, sleeping more. Like it just can be more rather than less. And that's what I love to focus on when I'm trying to get back on track, is all the ways I can more my diet rather than making it less and taking things away.
And I think a couple other things that have just helped me to like kind of ground back in being home and in the schedule and flow here is, after Mav goes to bed, I'll sit in front of my red light, and just meditate, have that moment to just be quiet. And, yeah, I've done it consistently enough. And I know you do this too in the morning, but where I look forward to it, it's something that I just feel like I can't do without in the evenings. So So my morning routine has shifted to kind of my evening after Mav goes to bed routine, and I'll do that. And then I'll do legs up the wall, which feels really good because I feel like I'm just on my feet quite a bit. And, yeah, I'll read just a little bit. I don't read for hours, but I'll read for like 20 minutes, and I'll have a stack of books on my bedside table and just kind of pick what I'm feeling that night. And I fell off reading for a bit. And so that kind of helps me to, one, not be on my phone, and two, just kind of keep my mind like curious and learning. And that's been a nice thing to like reincorporate into my routine.
Yeah, that's huge. I love that. I want to get back on that game. That's fallen off for me. And that's kind of a bummer because it's just such a joy and delight in life. So again, we're really excited to introduce Puori to you. If you don't know the brand already, the reason why we love them so much is because they are super clean. So basically they make the cleanest products we've found. The testing that they go through is through the Clean Label Project, which tests for over 200 contaminants and toxins. And they test for potency, they test for heavy metals, and they test for purity. So when you guys are buying other protein powders and creatine powders and things like that, a lot of them aren't being tested. So they have heavy metals, they have toxins, they're not as potent as you think, they're not as pure as you think. So it's really, really important, especially if you're having this every single day in the morning or multiple times a day, products like these, that you're getting something that is really, really clean. So we feel really proud to bring this product through to you, not only because we love it and we use it, but because it is something that is super clean, that is going beyond what most companies are doing to make sure that we live well.
So I spoke to Oliver Amdrup-Chamby today, the co-founder and CEO of Puori. It's a Danish-based health and food supplement brand. And we just had a really beautiful, wide-ranging conversation about everything from the third-party testing and like what that actually means and what goes into it, how extensive it is, how expensive it can be, but how dedicated they are to really raising the standard in the supplement industry, because it is a wild west. Not all supplements are made equal. And so they are trying to lead the way and really almost be a part of how regulation is in the future around supplementation. He is a health nerd, so we talked a lot of things health, whether it's, his ideal sleep environment that's helped him. He also went through some really intense health issues a few years back, and so he shared that journey and just kind of how he's become well since then. We talked about fatherhood. We talked about stoicism. He actually gave me the Daily Stoic as a little gift when I met him. And that was something that was really kind of fascinating. And then we also talked about his longevity routines. That's of interest to him right now, just living a long, healthy life, not just a long life. So it was a really cool, interesting conversation. He's just such a kind, interesting guy. I was happy to meet him in person, and we're really excited for you to try Puori. And just a reminder, as always, you get a discount. You can get 20% off your Puori purchase, including already discounted subscriptions as well, when you go to puori.com/almost30 and use the code almost30 at checkout. That's PUORI.com/almost30, and the promo code is almost30.
Again, I love the creatine plus. I love their pure collagen peptides. Lindsey loves the whey protein, which is great, and then the magnesium. So those are some great places for y'all to start.
Yeah. So good. Thank you so much, Oliver. And thank you all for listening. We really appreciate it. If you have not grabbed our book or maybe given our book as a gift to someone who's moving through a season of change, we know it will be super impactful and something that will help you just move through it with confidence and maybe a little bit more joy and curiosity. So the book is Almost 30. It's available anywhere you find books, Target, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and the like. We appreciate your support there.
Yeah, we love you guys so much. We'll see you on the other side.
If you're like me and want to be intentional about what you're putting in your body, not just on it, you need to know about Symbiotica. I've been using their products for a while now. I would say about 4 years almost. And honestly, they just get it. And my body loves their products. Symbiotica combines cutting edge science with bioavailable ingredients to help your body actually use what you're giving it. So, a few of my favorites lately, I love their vitamin C all year round. This is not your average C. This one is liposomal, so it actually absorbs, and it's packed with antioxidants that help boost immunity, fight inflammation, and support collagen production. It's especially clutch during seasonal changes or travel. I make sure to really bring this with me everywhere I go, especially like during the fall season or if we're traveling, anything like that. I am really, really loving their magnesium L-threonate. This is a game changer for sleep, relaxation, and recovery. It's one of the only forms that crosses the blood-brain barrier, so it really helps with calming the mind, not just relaxing the muscles. Why I love Symbiotica, I mean, they're super transparent, no fillers, no weird additives, and every product is formulated with your body's actual biology in mind. One of their new products that I love so much is their colostrum. It is so tasty. It's like a vanilla sea salt, and this liposomal form is super bioavailable. It's incredible for skin, hair, nails, and immunity for sure, as well as digestion. Try it out. Go to symbiotica.com and use the code almost30 at checkout for 15% off site-wide or 20% off your first subscription order. I recommend a subscription because you don't have to think about it. It just comes to your door every single month and you won't miss a day of your supplements. That's symbiotica.com, symbiotika.com, and the code is almost 30. Have you noticed that fees are everywhere lately? Like you book a weekend rental and you have a cleaning fee. Buy concert tickets, there's a processing fee no one can explain. Even ordering delivery comes with a service charge. It's like we're getting nickel and dime just for living life. It's very annoying. And those fees feel especially frustrating when money's tight. That's why I love Chime. So with Chime, there are no monthly fees, no overdraft fees, and no minimum balance fees. It's basically banking that doesn't punish you for being a human trying to get ahead. Personally, I've had times where I was trying to stick to a budget and surprise bank fees totally threw me off. Chime gives me peace of mind. I know what's coming in, what's going out, and I'm not getting charged for just using my money. Banking shouldn't cost you money. And with Chime, it doesn't. Open your account in 2 minutes at chime.com/almost30. That's chime.com/almost30.
Chime is a financial technology company, not a bank. Banking services and debit card provided by the Bancorp Bank N.A. or Stride Bank N.A. Members FDIC. Spot me eligibility requirements and overdraft limits apply. Timing depends on submission of payment file. Fees apply at out-of-network ATMs. Bank ranking and number of ATMs according to U.S. News and World Report 2023. Chime checking account required.
I'm so excited to be with you in person and thankful that you made the trip. And we were just talking before this about our kids and just kind of this beautiful journey to be in witness of like these little human beings becoming actual, like walking, talking, interactive beings. And it's so, so fun. And, you know, I think a lot of people listening will resonate that I feel like I got very conscious, curious, and very discerning about what I was putting in and on and around my body when I started to think about having kids. Before that, I was conscious of it. Maybe I just wasn't as strict about it. But when I began to think about, well, I'm going to be hopefully conceiving and growing a human being inside of me, and what is important when doing that for my body, for my system, for just the best environment. And I was someone who was taking a lot of supplements at the time, just kind of like doing what everyone else was doing as far as like my supplement stack. And I got very curious about, so what is in this? You know, how is this being regulated? And when
it's
I found,
not always
I
that
know,
regulated, no.
which I want to talk about. You know, when I found your brand, I was like, oh wow, they actually care, and this is like at the forefront of what they do and how they are guided in creating products. And it just really intrigued me. So I would love to just begin with, you know, why is this, you know, third-party testing and purity been so a part of your of the DNA of these products and the brand from the get.
From the beginning, yeah. I think it was like when you've grown up in the health and wellness space, there's never like one route that fits everyone. There's so many different routes to a better health outcome, whether that's your diet being, let's say, vegetarian, keto focused, and so on. You will hear all these different routes to often a better health outcome. But when we're talking about, and that was when it got interesting from a brand perspective, when we were talking about certain things that you would add to your diet or food supplements you would take. A lot of people we were talking about the importance of the omega-3, omega-6 fatty acid imbalances. And people were then saying, okay, remember when you start to consume fish in a larger dose, or if you take fish oil supplements regularly, make sure it's fresh and clean. And that makes sense. Clean must be a data point. Fresh should be a data point. So we were like the consumers that were starting to research, what does that mean? Is that like the absence of like heavy metals that are supposedly found in fish and is found in fish in the oceans? Is that like PCBs, dioxin, all these different environmental toxins coming from the planet that sneaks into our food chain? And when we were researching, we couldn't find any brands that would share that data. And if they shared data or gave us any information, it was really like not very third-party driven in any way. So we felt this is interesting. We have an industry where everybody kind of disagree on the right route to the best health outcome, whether it's in physical activity or diet, but everybody agrees that you do not want like heavy metals in your food or food supplements. Right. Nobody was saying, it's okay to get like a decent dose of lead from your protein shake. There was no, like the safety levels are almost none. So we felt this is so interesting. Everybody say there's a concern. Nobody has the actual data point, and people agree on something. There must be a brand out there who want to share that first and center on the webpage, and that's kind of how we got going, like looking into what does the fish oil industry look, how do you create a product that is on data, like on data points, actually fresh, pure, and high potency at the same time.
What is... For people that don't know, what is third-party testing? You could see it on a box or bottle, and I actually don't know what that entails.
To be honest, sometimes I think, again, brands are doing a great job of marketing their third-party testing. So I would look at a credible third-party source like the Clean Label Project, the EWG, like there's various different IFOS, different consumer organizations out there who will actually publish data points on the product. The thing with certifications in general is that is like within organic certification or a certification within Clean Label certification, they can't test every single batch of the brand's products. So they test maybe 5% of what they will maybe do 2 or 3 tests a year on a certain product in the market. But what we unfortunately have seen over the last plus 15 years, where we've been testing every single batch of every single product we've done, first by ourselves, but later on with the Clean Label Project, taking this what we call transparency pledge, which basically means every batch, there's a QR code. You can scan it and you can see what was the amount of heavy metals. Was there any pesticides? What was the active ingredient? Like this product is supposedly delivering a protein or omega-3. Wow. Was there actually active ingredient? So a third-party test that would give you a report from someone else, that is really what third-party testing means. That means that there's somebody out there paying attention to what's inside the product that you are buying and consuming. Mm-hmm. And, if we look at Clean Label Project as one of the really good organizations out there, I think there's hundreds of brands in the supplement space now that has a certification, but there's only one brand that has taken the transparency award. That means every single batch of every single product. And we think, based on the data, not just by our opinions, but based on the data, that's where we need to go. And we're seeing it go that direction in baby food now, with the new baby food regulations coming out of California, the AB 899, I think it's called, where the brands, if they want to sell in California, mandatory have to share heavy metal data on that brand, because when they did consumer survey, consumer testing in like a category, they found like alarming data in some of the products, right? So,
yeah, I was so happy to hear that. I think there's just a lot of things falling through the cracks, especially with child's products, whether it's formula, baby food. It's pretty wild.
It's pretty wild. Like, if you think about it, like when these studies they did in baby food and so on, where they were finding maybe 5 or 6 times the amount of lead that's allowed an adult serving a day.
Wow.
In a baby, let's say, baby branded organic even product sold in Whole Foods or any other like high-end grocery store, because nobody is actually measuring those data points. Oh. And I think that is where I think there's promise also for the supplement industry, because now with the new regulation out of California, that is actually mandatory. So we managed to get that mandatory transparency based on data. So consumers, you and I, we can actually benchmark based on that, and not who has the best branding and doing all the marketing and so on. So
yeah, I'm thankful to be living at a time where this is kind of, there's like a tipping point happening. I actually don't know this. So when it comes to heavy metals, let's talk about protein powder, omegas, and any other product that comes to mind that would be relevant to talk about. Where are heavy metals coming from in that process, or in those ingredients in the powder, for example?
If we take protein powders, actually, if we start with that, because I think the recent late big study of Clean Label Project, where they tested 83% of America's best-selling protein powders. It's not just a few. It was 160 different products that they went through a chemistry lab, and they tested them up against heavy metals as one thing, and they found that 47% of the brands sold to Americans had above Proposition 65 limits, like the Californian limits set by Proposition 65. Heavy metals in a serving of their protein powder.
Wow.
That's like flipping a coin based on if you're getting a lead or a heavy metal smoothie in the morning or protein after your workout, which is so counterintuitive to what you're trying to do. So I think this is not an issue where it's just a now and then. It is basically, so coming back to your question, where does it come from? So it comes from soil. A lot. It comes from the environment of how we're, treating where it's fish, where fish are swimming, where plants are growing, or cows and animals are grazing, and so on. So it sneaks into the food chain. What we in general saw in this study as well was, and I think that was something that is shocking to many, is that the plant-based, they seem to have a lot higher amount of heavy metals than, for example, the whey-based protein powders.
Mm-hmm. And that is because
the plants are really good at sucking this stuff out of absorbing it out of the ground, and that's because where they're grown. That's because of a lot of these things that we, again, unfortunately, are treating the planet in certain ways that, due to whether it's mining or fracking or industrial agriculture, that end up in our food chain.
Yeah, because I think we're kind of swinging back slightly, maybe based on the protein craze right now. But I do think that vegan proteins had a moment. The pea proteins, there's a whole slew of them that, and it felt kind of sudden, and everyone was doing it, and it never really felt good for me to take. I didn't really love it, but I know people that do. But yeah, I've been hearing now more and more just the amount of toxins that could be in there, which is very interesting. And how do you avoid that, I guess?
It's obviously your sourcing part is one step. So being able to test earlier for where we actually use the pea protein as well. And we've been through a lot of different pea manufacturers, and we buy the peas, we do a lab testing first to see what is the actual contaminant level of these peas. We even find from the same farmers that's a big variation. And that's back to that, we want to test every single batch of every single product that the consumer is facing, because then the consumer has safety. But so you can go in different routes. I think another finding in that study was the chocolate-based tend to, again, because the cacao beans and so on are really good at, again, removing stuff out of the soil, and where they're grown also tend to have higher heavy metal content. It can be cadmium and lead again. So if you don't know anything, you would probably choose a whey protein, a vanilla flavored or non-flavored, because that would kind of limit your exposure based on this. This is not just it's an issue now and then. It's a regular issue, and 47% is actually contaminated. Wow. So, or you could choose a brand that actually share all data. That would be the point, because I still feel that from the protein, the convenience of adding protein to your diet, if you have a hard time hitting your certain protein goals, whether that is, one goal or another goal, or how aggressive you are on that, there's a lot of nuance and variance in that too. But nonetheless, even if you are on a plant-based diet, it's actually a really good tool to add some protein to it, because it can be hard to reach just through, beans and legumes and so on, right? So I think it definitely serves a purpose, but again, then it should be clean and pure when you're adding.
We have too much to think about to have to wonder.
So my point is, we will get there. We are obviously part of pushing in that direction, but when we see these data points, it might take 5 or 10 more years. But at some point, we hope that that same type of system that they implement in the baby food should be implemented in something we could call a high-risk category without being like fear-mongering, because protein powders, you're consuming all, it's like, so dose makes the poison too. So would I be worried about, let's say, heavy metal content if I had like a small piece of chocolate every day? Depends on how much chocolate you're having for sure. But, if you take a protein powder, you have a fairly big dose of powder. It could be 20, 30 grams. Maybe some people do 2 servings a day. So the dose makes the poison too. So I think those are the areas where you want to, both as brands, as consumers, that's where you should prioritize.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I'm a stickler, to be honest. And especially now having my son, I actually put a little bit of the whey protein in his smoothie in the morning, the bourbon vanilla. So good. But I feel good knowing that it's been fully tested. Because I'm just thinking about child development, brain development. I'm thinking about just the sneaky ways in which we could be delaying development in what we're feeding our children, whether it's excess sugar, these heavy metals, et cetera. So I'm like kind of...
You get so into it, right?
Because I get very into it.
You care. You care so much when you have like a...
Yeah. And I also know that majority of brands don't care as much as you all do yet.
But we got to start a place, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And so I guess my last question on this topic is, what would it take for there to be a tipping point? Is it just more brands doing this third-party testing, or is it like on a government level having regulation where brands need to be transparent?
I think that's where we need to get to at the end of the day. Also, so it's not us, the brands, or any third party that need to regulate. Like, it feels much more, right when it's the same set of rules across. Because otherwise, there might be, let's say, 5 different providers. That's again confusing for the consumers. Hey, clean label and these guys. There's so many. If you want to be able to benchmark apples to apples and so on, it should be. I think something like that should be regulated. And again, they made it happen in baby food. I know it's for California mainly, but it shows us there's a route.
I won't get too far deep into like conspiracy land, but I'm curious, is what's stopping this happening from having it regulated on a government level or making it just a slower process? Is it the industries that maybe contribute to the contamination? So it's like certain parts of the agriculture industry or fertilizer or what?
Yeah, I see where you're going, but I think it's hard actually to say in
totally.
Where it really is. And I'm a personal believer, and I don't think the brands are doing it like on foul, right? I think they're, right now it's an education. First, we need the transparency. Right. And when we see stats like that are so like, it's a very broad study that shows data like this, that's where we need to act. And I think the brands will follow if the consumers also follow. And then eventually we should get it like, regulated by a third, like an instance, like a government institution or something like that.
Right. So, I'm curious, you're from Copenhagen. Are there different regulations there and in Europe?
There's definitely, so generally I would say, and then that's why you also see a lot of American brands are saying like, we follow European regulations, especially in beauty and in a lot of the other categories, because we have the European Food Safety Authorities, which sets certain rules. You also hear a lot about this right now on, you can see whether it's breakfast products that are available for Americans, but in Europe, the same breakfast product doesn't have these colors or dyes or whatnot in them. So I think we have a different rule set that is much stricter, especially on chemistry. So, but unfortunately, that doesn't look on like heavy metals.
Okay.
So it is much better when you look on chemistry, even if it's glyphosate or pesticides and chemistry in general, it's much stricter than what we see in America.
Okay.
So I think there's definitely, and when and I say we as a European, I see myself equally as an American. I've been living in America for a long time and going back and forth all the time. And my wife's family lives in America as well. So I say when such a complex setup as Europe with so many different countries can find a route to figure it out, where we're not just like different states, we're like really different people and traditions and where we come from and languages and so on. I'm sure we can implement something similar in the US as well.
Yeah, I'm super hopeful.
So for sure.
I think we're on our way.
That's
sure.
the route we have to go.
Okay, I would love to talk about, so as we know, everyone's talking about the amount of protein we're getting in a day.
Yeah.
But I want to find like the nuance in the conversation.
Yeah.
And just, what you and the company has found in terms of how much protein do we actually need, the type of protein, whey versus collagen versus other types. What is important for us to understand, especially as women? There's mostly women listening to this.
For sure. And I think that's really probably also where it's most important to discuss, because it tends to be women also getting maybe too little protein in their diet. And I think when we look at everything from perimenopause to menopause and as we go on, like what we want is healthy muscle.
Yes.
And I think if you listen to like the Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, she's probably on the front of the pushing protein and healthy skeletal muscle. But I think everything looks like when you have healthy skeletal muscle, all your health markers looks better. It comes from, body, brain, wellness, so I think there's something to it. And we know we need protein to maintain, build healthy skeletal model. And we need to actively work out. That's the other side. We can't just sit in a chair. So I think those are two really critical components that, especially for women, is super important. So I don't know what I would say. Hey, I would do 1 gram per pound of body weight. I think that's on the larger dose side of it. But if we look at the American recommendation, is like on a super low dose. It's like you can barely survive on that. So I think you can survive on it, but it's on a really low
thrive
end.
on it. Yeah,
there's a big difference, right? So I would probably go closer to maybe 7.8 grams of protein per body weight in pound. And if you start to measure that out, like it's some pretty intense, meals. If you're doing 3 meals a day with protein, like you need to
I actively have to think about it.
You actively have to think about it. Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I make my big batch of, meatballs at the top of the week to be able to shovel them in my mouth at lunch.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's a thing.
It's a thing. And if you want to be at like 30 grams of protein per meal, which a lot, like it's a thing.
Yeah.
So I think there's definitely something to be aware of. And I think starting to pay attention to that and, and adding, some strength training to your regimen of wellness routine, longevity routine, healthy mom routine. And so I think that is, we will just see the importance of that grow over time.
So when we're talking about, because I love your whey protein, can we talk about like whey versus collagen? Do we need both? How about what's the amino profile that we should be looking at? I'm saying this as not someone who knows almost nothing, but kind of has found her flow with things.
I think you found your flow. I think there's definitely some amino acids that are more, helpful when it comes to muscle building, like the leucine and so on. And those you find in higher doses in like a whey protein.
Okay.
So you will get like the brand chains amino acid that you often have seen also, the bodybuilder in the past, very focused on hitting all the essential amino acids and such. But if you look at that in a serving of protein powder and whey, you most often get that leucine needed for the muscle side of it.
Got it. Okay.
So, and that's where it's potent. That's where it's potent and, a good and a powerful add-on to your diet. And again, you can do with a protein shake, you can get your 20 to 30 grams of protein in a shake fairly easy.
Easy, yeah.
So you can actually
I was actually
use that to bridge your
surprised by
gap.
The serving size
Of a spoon, and
and how much protein was in it. I had to double take when I was giving it to my son. I was wait.
Is that right? Yeah, and it is, and I think actually going into our protein product in a second, you think it's you get quite a lot from a fairly small dose. It's like again, it's grams. So there's like for 20 grams, there's 30 grams of powder for 20 grams of protein, basically, because of the concentration of the protein and so. And we've taken a route of, making it a flavor, like the flavor component of our protein powder is flavored with real natural ingredients like the real
Which I love.
vanilla, the real vanilla seeds in it and so on. And we actually used a little bit of organic coconut sugar instead of having like high monk fruit, stevia, or anything else like that. And people are like, oh, I don't want sugar in my protein powder. And I think that's fair. I think that's a really fair point to be honest, I'm also more focused on the protein when I'm buying protein powder than the carbohydrates. But if I look at it in the grand scheme of my diet and like the wellness of the product, the taste, the life, I think you're getting 3 grams of added sugar. That's like a fifth of a banana or a bite of an apple. We're in that, like, it's so little.
Yeah.
So I think if you can get that and get 20 grams of protein, and then you actually avoid a lot of these, obviously you want to avoid the not natural flavors, components, but even sometimes I want to avoid like getting too much monk fruit and stevia and so on, because it becomes so overly palatable sweet.
I agree with you.
And this feel more like real food. And that was kind of the purpose of it. Take real food, mix it, and get to high quality product.
Completely agree. Because I do think with certain products that use natural flavors or, really, really sweet sweeteners, I feel like it changes my palate a little bit over time, where I'm like, yes, I'll crave sweeter, but it's almost like when I eat sweet things, they don't taste as sweet.
No.
Which is really interesting. Same with like salty stuff, but I kind of like, I'm okay with salt, but it's just been interesting kind of notice that over
I hear
time.
what you're saying. And I think when you're eating like real food, most of the time, your palate is just so much more prone to tasting and feeling the differences and so on. So that's how we got there too. I do say like natural flavor in Europe is very different from natural flavor in US too.
Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, because I know a lot of us, it's like, I don't want to, if I'm here as well, I'm like, I probably don't necessarily always want the natural flavor component in the product. But let's say in a protein powder where honestly, you do want a taste of something.
Sure.
Because otherwise it becomes so, not nice of an experience, let's say after a workout or, as part of your breakfast or whenever you're using it. So I think by using the natural flavor component in Europe has to come from a natural ingredient.
Okay.
So it's like a concentrate of
So the
vanilla.
words are true.
The words are more true. There's way less, it become more of an umbrella term over here where you can cover a lot of things under it. So what we've done is additionally also for the people that we have a lot of very, nerdy customers and science-driven customers and people who are taking our products. Part of the transparency report, we test for residual solvents as well. And that's some of the things that you might see down there in like in the flavoring components and so on. So you can actually go in and see, there's nothing of this in it and there's nothing of that. So you can see all the different residual solvents. So it tests for residual solvents like the pesticide residue and glyphosate, the actual protein content. There's actually 21 grams of protein in my shake or whatever brands are claiming. Heavy metals, which is probably the most important when you look at it. And let's see, I think there was we sometimes test additionally for PFAS. We haven't found that yet. PFAS is sneaking in our food chain.
Yeah.
Like, let's just be honest about it's coming in a water, soil,
it's in our placenta.
It's there, right? Yeah, that's also creepy, right?
Yeah.
But where is it coming from?
Right.
We don't know yet. We have a lot of indication. There's like the stuff in our apparel and clothing, the cookware. There's a lot of
makeup,
different things.
skincare.
But how do they end up in food? So we've also said, okay, since it's an issue for some, we want to go in and test that now and then.
Okay.
We haven't found yet, so it's not something that either we are relying on, like the Clean Label Project and the other professional institutions to say, okay, now we have to test for this.
Right.
They should be the drivers of that, not the brands. But we do that anyway. By ourselves, if we have concerned consumers or we starting to hear something that is sneaking in, but we haven't seen that yet. So it's not something that's mandatory in our individual testing yet.
Okay.
So, but I think that will vary a lot from what type of products we're talking about.
I think of PFAS too, related to food, which I don't think would be like in maybe in the supply chain, but like plastics, like containers, I'm thinking about I'm always thinking about like just what's touching my food, even like what I put.
Sure.
Like if I put my food in a container, okay, let's make sure it's not hot and we're putting it in plastic, or coffee in a paper cup. It's lined by it's lined with something that's plastic, things like that. I'm kind of just always in the back of my mind thinking about, but I would be curious in the supply chain process.
Where does it sneak in? Yeah.
Maybe, obviously you haven't found it yet, which is great.
In the end product. that's also back to testing the end product, right? Like, because we can get like certificate that the first study the Clean Label project did on protein powders, they found like a lot of BPAs, like the endocrine disruptors to soften plastic.
Yeah.
The positive story was that this new study found like almost no brands had, like it was only a few of the 160.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So the industry from a packaging perspective really been focused on let's get BPAs and BPS and some of the other bisphenols out of the plastic. I don't know if we're using something new and now need to chase for, that's another story, but that was a positive. So I think to your point, like be aware of what you're putting it in. Sure. There is cross-contamination, and I think that is the second part of, one thing is something is coming out of the soil, but the other is cross-contamination through the supply chain, through the packaging and so on. But again, back to if you test the final product and you don't find anything, so we don't find anything in the powder. When the Clean Label projects do the testing of our, protein powders, and I was like on our website the other day looking at batch testing, there's right now, I think 75 or 79 different lab reports on, that's because we made X amount at a time. Those are in the market, so consumers can go in. I was like, God damn, it's a lot of lab reports we're doing here, right? Like people who scroll through this, it's becoming, but you can go in and find, here's my batch. That batch, we didn't find anything in that actual powder tested from that bag.
Got it.
So it's back to that, like, if we do that step, at least we got to go back in our end and find out where is that cross-contamination coming from eventually. But again, for the consumer's sake, you shouldn't need to think about that, right?
Right.
We should just give you something that lives up to your quality standards.
Yeah, but I love the paper trail. I love the, I think it's really, it says so much more than just the report. It says that, you have no problem being transparent about your process. There's nothing to hide. There's nothing, it's just, it feels so much better. And I think that's where we're moving. People are very energetically attuned to that now, and they can kind of feel that, I think, from a brand.
And I think, the consumers, and like now we talked about healthy moms, like those are the one pushing the envelope, like demanding higher quality. And that will spill off to us as brands, obviously, and it should, right? Like to us to try to do better. So I think we're definitely pushing that in the right direction. And I always encourage people as well, if you're in doubt on something you're consuming, and I would say, what are the products that I should pay most attention to? Back to that dose makes the poison. The one that you're consuming on a daily basis, the one you're consuming in larger doses, that's a very good starting point to look at, right? So, the protein powder, that's why it comes out. It's a daily product often. It's a fairly large dose. So that's where I would start. But if you have any other products at home, ask the brands. Ask them to provide this data. If they can, if they stonewall you, I would be like a little bit,
Yeah.
But if they can provide it, that's great. Like be like, the more the brands are experienced in this, the more they need to adapt to it as well.
Yes.
So we're good at these consumer movements through social media and so on, right? So let's keep pushing it.
And I think we've seen it on a grand scale, like just lately, governmentally here in the US. So I'm hopeful that momentum keeps going. What other supplements are you looking at that people just generally should be consuming? I know everyone is very bio-individual, but should be consuming. And what have you found as far as just kind of the purity challenges there? I'm thinking about the omegas. I'm thinking, so I would love to know what else.
So I would say, like, where would I start? Like, if I were on a journey of adding something to my diet. So I would say, first step, your diet. Like before the supplements, you can't out-supplement a bad diet, right?
Yes.
So yes, actual food, high quality over quantity, eat very, like, lots of colors, get real fish. And like, I'm not like picking one certain diet style, but I would just say really the quality over quantity is like a huge component. So that's one side. But if you now have gone into and say, okay, there is certain things that are actually really hard to get, even in high quality through diet. Let's say creatine. Like we talk, if we just mention where would I start on the supplement, I would say omega-3s, D vitamin, magnesium, creatine, protein. That's probably the top.
Okay.
And I say that, and I know that also from a lot of the input we get from our customers. Like that's probably the basic product. There could be a multivitamin or something in that mix too, but I would say that's probably the basic of like the food supplements, where protein is a little bit different because it's also food. So if I start there, we tend to say, you know, we try to practice virtuosity, trying to do these common products uncommonly well. So when you look at omega-3s, there's really, if you're taking an omega-3 for various reasons, you know, like the claims that we can make coming out of Denmark as well is like it's head, heart, and eyes. But if you look at the studies, there's so much on like inflammation markers and so on, and that kind of starts a whole array of other things underneath, right? So the D vitamin is pretty cheap when you look at it, cost-benefit ratio. So creatine, pretty cheap when you look at it, cost-benefit ratio. Very interesting creatine also from, you know, brain health, not just muscle health perspective. So there's definitely something there. And that's one of the harder ones. You know, I think you need like, you know, close to 2 pounds of beef a day to get like 3 or 5 grams of creatine. Like you can get in a sub. So that, you know, that's not going to happen. Right, like from a diet. There's definitely diet sources, but you're not used to getting those high doses that we'll get from, we talked about what is being adequate and what is being optimal. And there's definitely something here in increasing that for muscle health, brain health, and so on. Also a decent one if you're thinking budget-wise on your list. And then magnesium, it's hard to get around too. Like it's incredibly hard to get enough through diet. Even if you do green juices and smoothies and so on all the time, I think that's a great route to it. But, you know, that's something you can add and see an efficient load from. So, yes, taking you back to the question, I think those are probably the top 5 where I would start. And that's based on macro data. And it's not based on individual biomarkers or anything. You could do that. D vitamin levels is fairly easy to get checked. Magnesium is a little harder because it fluctuates more in the body based on what you're eating and how you're living and so on. So creatine, I actually don't know if you even test for that in like intracellular levels.
Either.
No.
What would someone what would you recommend? So I started taking creatine, I would say consistently about 2 months ago. And I've just, so speaking to my moms out there, I know you know, lots of brain fog, lots of just alternate brain function since becoming a mom and just varying levels. And it's helped tremendously.
That's
tremendously. I don't know what else it does, but tremendously, like the brain fog has lifted, and I've been noticing it in my work, being able to do interviews, writing, etc. Like I'm so thankful. So thankful.
I think there's like what we're starting to see on the creatine side is that there's one is the neuroprotective side of it, but the other is it's an energy source for the brain. So like, which makes sense when you're describing the different things without being able to, you know, point to a study and saying this. But like people are starting now to see studies on sleep deprivation where they do a large dose of creatine and see an improved cognitive function when they do it versus a placebo. So for traveling, jet lag, for being a mom, it's almost like having jet lag all the time with kids waking up at night and so on. So I think there's definitely, again, from the neuroprotective and the brain side of it. I recently had my second concussion, and you know, concussions, for those of you who've been through that, like it can be totally debilitating, and you know, you're trying to do anything you can, but you can't really do anything. You know, it's a different story. But there was a lot of interesting studies on concussions and creatine as well. Wow. So that was a fairly large dose that they were recommending for people with, and even better if you had taken it prior to having a concussion.
Wow. The recovery was better?
So they've been looking at American football players, and they saw that the length of the concussion symptoms were significantly shorter for the group that took creatine versus the group that didn't take creatine.
Wow.
So there's, again, back to that neuroprotective. So I think there's a lot of promising reasons why that's something to add, and also why you're feeling an impact. And the other one that we hear most people saying, they actually feel the muscles are getting, you know, stronger or more powerful, again, because it helps with this like explosive burst of training, which again is helpful for you building muscle and keeping strong, basically.
This episode is brought to you by IQ Bar, our exclusive snack sponsor. IQ Bar is the better for you plant protein-based snacks made with brain-boosting nutrients to refuel, nourish, and satisfy hunger without the sugar crash. I brought a bunch of IQ Bars with me the other day. I had a busy day. I had a few interviews. I had an event, and I just knew that I needed to make sure I was nourishing myself with food that I knew the ingredients were clean, were good for me, were great for my brain and my body, would satiate me, and were yummy. So I ended up having 2 IQ Bars that day. I had one mid-morning and then mid-afternoon. It was just a great interim snack. So these are plant protein bars. I like getting my protein in any way that I can. High quality ingredients, like I mentioned, and it's totally free from gluten, dairy, soy, GMO, and artificial sweeteners. And they come in 9 delicious flavors. My favorite is the banana nut, always and forever, but they have flavors like chocolate chip and chocolate sea salt, toasted coconut chip, lemon blueberry, peanut butter chip. They do it right. They're so delicious, so chewy. You're going to love the texture. If you don't believe me, there's over 25,000 5-star reviews and counting, so just know that. They also have hydration mixes and mushroom coffees in addition to their brain and body boosting bars. And right now, IQ Bar is offering our special podcast listeners 20% off all IQ Bar products, plus get free shipping. To get your 20% off, text ALMOST, ALMOST, to 64,000. Text ALMOST to 64000. That's ALMOST to 64,000. Message and data rates may apply. See terms for details. Great. Yeah, I know that's why my husband takes it, but I also, I'm happy to tell him, because he's had a few concussions. He played football in high school and college.
Okay, yeah.
So that's
It's a tough sport.
Yeah, I mean.
It is, but yeah.
Will my son be playing football? I don't know.
Yeah. Who knows? Yeah.
He can do what he wants.
Yeah.
Unless mom says otherwise. Yeah, that's really interesting. So I also wanted to touch on magnesium, because I think Krista and I, my co-host, will agree. It's one of those supplements that has helped with our anxiety, has helped with our, rest and recovery, has helped with our sleep, our digestion. I assume do you take magnesium on a regular basis? How has it impacted you?
It's somewhat similar. I think I've looked a lot on also like sleep optimization and so on for my own health. And again, for the brain health when you're trying to get out of the concussion symptoms. But I think in general, the muscle cramping of being on the go, being slightly dehydrated eventually, of like flying or working or just like moving around. Like, I'm a father of 3 too. So when you go back and forth across time zones and back into family life and then, it's just, I think general, I would say your body is probably using more magnesium because it's something that is excreted more when you're like extra under like physical stress or in general. So I think, again, getting it is hard. I would definitely, again, aim to get as much from diet as possible, but it's such a simple add-on if you take an organic form of magnesium to see a benefit from. And we hear the same. I think that's one of the products that we get most positive feedback from, kind of instant gratification almost. People feel it after maybe very few days of taking a magnesium product.
No, I agree. I would actually love to know what you've discovered in your own sleep optimization journey, because I think, people for various reasons are wanting to optimize their sleep. I think me and others out there as moms, it's not the easiest thing because we have a child, but when we can sleep, how can we optimize? Because sleep affects everything. I just know I'm a completely different person when I've gotten really deep, restful sleep.
It's a big topic, and I think first up is probably starting by measuring it, whether it's like an Oura ring or whatever kind of tracker that you want, and then having like some kind of consistent data for a period of time, so you can benchmark up against that when you start to make changes.
Right.
Again, always wake up, feel how you're feeling. Don't look at a data point. Oh, my sleep score was bad. I'm like, no, don't do that, especially not with small kids. But so feel first. And we have that rule as well at home. And my wife is also using an Oura ring. And, like we also found out something interesting is like, I am super easily impacted by, getting like being woken up at night by a kid or something. I have a really hard time getting back down into deep sleep, where my wife have three children, she's like, if she fall asleep, instantly after she's been waking up, back down into deep sleep.
Yeah.
It's like the body knows, I got to rest. I don't know when I'm getting up again.
Totally.
Yeah, I'm like, so that was positive. She was like, wow, how can you outbeat me? You've been up 3 times this night and you outbeat me. Like, obviously it's her reference range versus my reference range, but and we're joking about it, making it fun. But I think so. Step one, if you measure, you can also track things that you're doing differently. I found out like a lot of the indoor climate was a big impact for me, like making sure that my pillows and everything was like the room that I was in didn't have a lot of different pillows. So I sleep significantly worse often when I'm at hotels, even by being alone. And
because there's more pillows?
My guess is I see my dust, slight, and I don't have the right word for it.
You don't have your air filter in the corner.
I don't necessarily have the right air filter. I just have too many things that are not like, out there and getting even fresh air to it. So I say fresh air, darkness, temperature. Those are keys. And 100%. Then your wind down routine. So, and I, again, without pinpointing to one thing, things are awfully different when you travel and are on the go. But I think a wind down routine at home, whether it's like journaling, like getting off your phones, stretching, meditating, just slowing down before you go to sleep, makes a huge impact on that.
I completely agree. Any nights that I find myself on my phone later than I should or want to be, I can feel, I've been talking about this lately, I can feel the buzz of my brain. And also what I've realized is that I'm bringing like the thoughts, the lives, the pictures, the energy of people that I'm like seeing, whether it's on social media or an email or whatever, with me into my sleep state. I will have dreams that reflect that energy. I will see them in my dreams, or I'll wake up in the middle of the night feeling a little funky. It's wild. So I'm trying to be just as, boundaried as possible with that in particular. I think makes such a difference. I've also been noticing, I'm curious, you being on the go and an entrepreneur, and obviously so much of your work is on your phone at times. I've noticed this very strange feeling, almost like a car sickness, when I've been on my phone a lot in a day. And I don't know if it's like an ocular thing where I'm like seeing something very up close and it's the blue light and it's this, rather than like picking my head up. And I also am curious about the posture of being like this.
The technique.
Holy moly. Like it's affecting more than I think. And I know this is not what the conversation's about, but I'm just curious kind of your experience with that.
But no, I think you're right. I think get off the phone like at least an hour before. Like, could you do it a little earlier? It's probably great. I also tend to think all the thoughts, put them down on paper if you have a lot of stuff in your head. Like sit and actually write them out. Like that helped me through like stressful periods of time where there's like a lot of deadlines or something that's really important. That's been super helpful. But I think, again, back to finding that night routine for you at home that you can actually do. Whether it's like walking around in your garden or doing things at home, lying on a yoga mat, listening to a mindfulness sleep story, or anything that like reading can also be. Sometimes my reading get my like creative energy going. So I'm like, I get super tired. I'm like, I can't read. So it's like hit or miss. So, but I think that's where like writing and journaling is even better. Then practicing gratitude and all the other things we know is so good for our brains and our mental well-being. So,
and I think as parents, I'll just speak to that, where sometimes at the end of the day, I just want to I just want to kind of like melt, and I have to be mindful of what that melting looks like. Because sometimes it is like kind of watching trashy TV, which is not bad, but I'm just like,
So we have something else. So if I do that, like it's not like if I can like stack it with something that's somewhat good for me. Let's say I have we have a infrared PEMF mat at home.
Yes.
Then I'm lying watching it on that.
Totally.
So I'm like doing something good. I feel
legs up the wall.
Yeah, exactly. So if you can do again, it's just about like we only have a certain amount of time, right? So can we optimize? Sometimes there should be room for that for sure, but we need to be. Yeah, if we can do a little hack here and there at the same time, we just feel better.
Totally.
Like,
How are you looking at just, with 3 kids a full family that you and your wife are taking care of, what is the balance of, being mindful of what they're putting in and around their bodies, and then also the balance of,
Yeah.
I realize that sometimes I'm bringing fear and stress to a moment when that actually might be more detrimental than the actual pizza that he's having at the birthday party. You know what I mean?
And I am definitely like, my wife balanced me out a little bit on that, even though she's totally into health and wellness is the same, but I get more caught up in it. Like,
Totally.
Like, what about this? And now we're going over to these friends and they're always feeding like XYZ before, and I'm like, I'm trying to not correct in the situation.
Yeah.
And then if I know I'm having a situation where, let's say, midday we're going somewhere and I can't control it, I shouldn't be trying to control it here anyway. I can control all the things around it. So I can control, okay, I'll make sure that we have a really nice breakfast.
Yes.
Highly, like if it's a food thing, for example, like if I know I'm going out to just cakes and candy and whatnot, like let's make sure that they're super filled with good foods, like good quality fats, good protein, so on. Like they're actually like saturated, right? Like,
yes.
And
so they're not hungry when they get there.
They're not as hungry, right? And I feel like that's something good. And then I try to let go. In the situation, I don't want to be like nitpicking on it too much. If I can control a little bit when we get back home again, I will.
Yeah, of course,
for sure. And
it's we control what we can control. With I think like my rule has been kind of like within the home and within the realm that like feels natural and in flow. So if I'm making his breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day, and if there's a pizza party at a birthday, then we consider that and we kind of like think about the day holistically. Sure. And I'm also thinking about at this age, the week holistically.
Yeah.
So like sometimes in a day, I'm doing my best, but toddlers, hunger fluctuates and their preferences fluctuate. So if I look holistically at the week, how do we do?
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm looking at this point in his life.
And that changes, obviously, as you say, it will change.
Yes.
Like you should do that for sure. And I will, like we try to do that too. And then we talk a lot about when the kids, if you start to feed them too much sweet stuff and so on, they'll have a much harder time going back to, let's say, the dark leafy greens and so on. So like, how do you balance that? That's hard too.
I know.
But like we talk about, it's a practice. So if they suddenly start, if you don't like this, we got to learn it. So we got to keep tasting broccoli if you're not a big fan of broccoli. We'll just taste just take a little bite of it next. Taste it again. It's just like practicing a bicycle or, whatever it is. It's a skill you got to Of course, it's something they just really don't like. You can go around. But if that list is starting to get too long, still I would keep introducing, and I can't recall who it was that shared the data with me at some point, but it was like, you need to test up to 50 times.
Yes.
You can't say, she doesn't like this, like, he doesn't like that. Like, no, keep going.
Yes,
like,
I heard the same, and I was like, and I've seen it in practice where the exposure to things, oftentimes my son's 21 months, and oftentimes if I give him too many options, he kind of has like decision fatigue, and he'll always... He'll be like, no, I want this thing, and like kind of not give attention to the one thing that's in front of him. And over time, he loves broccoli, and maybe next week he won't, who knows? But I've also like, I want to bring fun and joy and exploration to food too. Sure. And I want to like bring that back into my life as well, where, there's just that joy around food, and giving him a different fork to use, can change a whole meal.
Yeah. Like it looks like a little truck or something
Totally.
like that. Yeah,
You're like, okay, I got it. But yeah, I love to hear that because, and this is, sometimes an unpopular opinion, but I do think it's our responsibility, and I do think it matters what we feed our children. And I do think that we can have like a healthy relationship with food and still help them to have, a palate that's wide and diverse, and have an attitude around food where they, understand what gives them energy and what makes them feel good. over time, you know? So I do think that's our responsibility.
I'm totally agree. So I think it's okay to go out in there, but it shouldn't be every day.
Yeah, no.
Because then suddenly it will be too much. And I think that's where it starts breaking for most, because, you know, like you need to have 80% of your diet dialed in.
Yes.
You can't have like 50% of it dialed in. And you can see how quickly that will go down the rabbit hole if you introduce too much non-food-like substances, like ultra-processed weird foods, snacks and whatnot. Like it needs to be real food for the vast majority of the time.
I completely agree.
And I think it's, as you said, it's okay to, when you get out there now and then, to let go and not be like the crazy parent too much that you are, that I am, at least in our friends and family. But I also say it's like to grandparents and whatnot, like if you want to give them an ice cream, you know, divide it up in size.
Yeah.
So if you think about it this way, like would you have 8 balls of ice cream? Like in a cone with 8, you wouldn't, like, that's the same equivalent if you're giving them 2 or 3.
Yes.
So I just make sure that you eat the same. I'm like, if they wanted ice cream, okay, at midday, you're doing the same. And then they go, no, I would never eat that much ice cream midday. I'm like, why should the kids have? So that is a little provocating, or sorry, but it gives them at least that thought process of like, okay, wow, they are like 40 pounds creatures or 30 pounds or whatever they are at the time. You know, like a large dose doesn't make any sense of that. It's way too much, right?
And I often think this boils down into, and then I'll get us back on track, but I often think this boils down to, and I've been there, you know, I've made choices where I kind of take the easy route, where I'm like, this would just be easier right now if I could sit him in front of Blue's Clues and I could make dinner, you know, and I've done that. And I'm not saying it's wrong at all. And I do think we have choice points where, and it's the same with, you know, choosing supplements, going the extra mile to find the brands that actually care and do the testing. And like, it's taking that extra effort, not taking the easy route necessarily, and making a choice that is for the betterment in the long term. So not, you know, I don't give him screens, and I'm just mindful about that, but it's not the easiest choice. And I understand the moments where you just need a break. I totally get it, but that's also a choice.
That is true.
You know, so it's like, sometimes I get a little pushback because, you know, we all have different circumstances, how we're navigating parenthood, but I'm like, I get it, and I've been there, and you know, it's very hard.
It is very hard.
It's very hard. And I think we're being pushed in those moments, like in a good way, to be able to hold a little more discomfort, help our children hold a little more discomfort, become a little bit more resilient and creative. And, you know, we're being pushed to be the nervous system that they need in that moment, instead of just placing them in front of the TV or giving them the phone, whatever. So I just think we're like all on this journey, like when we're parents, of like, okay, like this is the moment that I'm going to choose the harder thing, but I know in the long term that it will actually make all of our lives a bit easier, healthier.
For sure. Yeah. It's like, you know, if we had, like, you hear this often when you're in, like, I used to have a background, like running a gym, like started a CrossFit gym and been a personal trainer, like prior to Puori. And I was like super into that health and wellness space. And the I'll say excuse, but like the comment you often got from people like, oh, on Friday we went out and it got a little crazy. So on Saturday it was like, I already like lost the diet, so I'll start on Monday again.
Right.
Also, I'll trash Saturday and Sunday as well. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like it might be, like if you fall down the horse, you shouldn't like roll around in the mud forever. You should try to get back up. Or if you get a flat tire, like, one thing is one flat tire, but would you go out and then like make all 4 tires flat? You know, it's still much harder to change that. Like, so the mindset of like just going, oh, now I'm already in, I can just go crazy. That's not right, to be honest, right? You need to get back up as quickly as you can and go back to your good routines and so on. So, yeah, if you have that drop off, get back on. Like, I would say
I completely agree. It's usually the mind that kind of convinces you otherwise.
It's totally a mind.
The body's like, let's go. Like, I'm ready, I'm resilient, I'm loyal, let's go.
That's the way it is, right? So
yeah, completely. So I just wanted to talk a little bit more about in terms of this is what I want to talk about. The supplementation, I feel like people are confused generally, and I'll speak for myself, where, should we be cycling certain supplements? Should we be like taking these things at certain times of day? I guess, what have you found like in your own personal experience and research? Because again, like there's not enough information out there kind of helping people to incorporate these supplements into their routine, and people are just kind of like, okay, I'm taking all these things at once first thing in the morning, and would it be better to take certain things after a workout? Or I guess I would love more information on that, what you found.
Yeah, I think overall it's a lot of nuance to it that can be we can drill down to. I think, first of all, consistency is the key. I think, again, for people, like, I need to take my magnesium like 30 minutes before I'm going to bed. That's the best time. And I would say that might be the case. But if you miss one day out of the week, that's a 1 out of 7 because you're trying to do that. I would bet that having enough, magnesium in your cells by taking it at the same time every day where you remember it was probably better. The same, I would say, go at least for like something like omega-3. So I would say some of these product consistency is the key. Okay. Creatine, omega-3, magnesium, and so on. Consistency is key. D-vitamin, you could cycle a little bit. Okay. Based on like, do I get more sunlight outside? What time of year is it? How is I'm doing that? But the body doesn't really. It's not as quick up and down, levels in your body. So we still see people tend to be low on D vitamin even in the summertime, whether it's like they're actually not spending as much time out there, or when they do, they don't get maybe full body sun exposure. And when they do that, they maybe have a very high, sunscreen on them, which they probably should too, but it's like it might inhibit a little bit of the absorption of the D vitamin. So I think that one you can a little bit easier, play with around, but I would say like the creatine, the omega-3, and the magnesium, there's a lot of consistency. Yeah. So find it where it works for you.
And does it compound over time, like in terms of the amount in your body and
you're
cells?
Building up a certain level in your side. And that's also why some would say, oh, it's a good thing to take like a larger dose in the beginning to really fill up your cells and, right away. And I think there's some studies showing that on the creatine side or not, but I'll again say it might take a little longer to hit your baseline if you don't do a larger dose. But I would say, again, if you just get up there and keep that consistency, that's want to give you the bang for the buck in the long run. Okay, great. Is there some products that are like, a protein and creatine? There's also a little bit of evidence that, maybe when after you've worked out, your muscles are better at absorbing. Mm-hmm. And you would see that in like having a background also in the bodybuilding space from that you would see people be super strict on this. Again, back to consistency is more important than that. But if you want to play around with it, sure, sometimes the protein shake also feel really good after workout. Mm-hmm. So then throwing your creatine in there would be a good choice to optimize. And then again, omega-3s, as fish oil has been, I would take that with a protein-rich meal. Okay. And I would, in general, take that with meal and not on an empty stomach. Right. Because it is an oil. Yeah. And like if you take a scoop, if you wake up in the morning and take a scoop of olive oil, it will be like a burning sensation almost in your throat and in your system. So that's an olive oil. But if you did that with fish oil too, or just had your caps in the morning with a cup of coffee, it might not be the nicest experience. Totally. Gelatin will dissolve quicker. Might taste a little like fishy.
Some fish burps,
Though I think that's a really important point to make on like if you have a high quality fish oil, you're measuring the oxidation in a data point as well, like the TOTOX, it's the total oxidation in the oil. And if you get a quality fish oil, like if you had quality fish sushi at a restaurant, you won't taste the fish you feel. It'll taste like fish, but it won't be like harsh fish, oxidated fish. And if you have a really high quality fish oil like that, where you actually measure that data point and can get that really low, you won't feel any fishy burps on fish oil, even at larger doses. And we've had people play with really large doses for, various things that they were doing with the functional doctors or trying to combat something that they were working on. I've been playing with that as well for myself, for concussion and so on. So there's been a lot of different things where we played with it. But because the oil is so fresh,
Yeah.
you don't get those fish
Yeah, I
soup
agree
crisps.
with that.
But I
love
would still
your
take it
fish
with a
oil.
meal.
Yeah.
Because it totally helps.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Are you excited? Like, how do you innovate? You know, how do you decide what is the next thing that you all create?
So I think Puori stands for pure origin. It comes from pure origin. And we say we are purity, potency, and peace of mind. So I think we need to innovate around the products where there's a risk of contamination. That's one side. The other way we innovate is what are our customers actually facing of issues. So every quarter we do a survey in our email database, and we get thousands of people to reply back with long, a lot of input. It's very valuable for us. And what we see is where are they having issues? Where they're having, now we're hearing also, let's say, food issues on contamination, right? Like, oh, what do everybody says rice has arsenic in it? What rice should I pick? But if we look at the supplement side, that's where we've been focused, right? So is there any other product that they're using, that our audience are using? Then that's what we are innovating around. And then we again try to become better at the existing products. So we call it a never-ending product cycle. We've had multiple omega-3 fish oil products, but it's the same you're facing, just like you're buying a new iPhone. It's not great. We found a way to, let's say, add a drop of lemon oil to the capsule so it tasted a little bit better, or we found a way to get quicker processing through the pressing and the molecular distillation of the fish oil to ensure the freshness was a little bit better, things like that you not necessarily will see as a consumer, but things that we are playing with. So we're playing more with our existing products than we are building new. So we try to do the common uncommonly well.
Love that. And you do. This has been incredible. Thank you so much. So informative, and just a really great reminder that, I think we and our bodies deserve that care and attention to our products. And I think it's becoming more mainstream to pay attention to that. But I do think that, brands like yours just set the standard, and it kind of teaches us to be aware of that, to care about that, to feel and taste the difference. So I'm really, really thankful.
Yeah. Me too. And thank you for inviting me here. It's nice to be in New York. And
of course.
Get around. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. And we have a discount. So you can use the code almost30. And I'm a big fan of the bourbon vanilla whey protein. I have that every morning. So does Mav. I take their omega-3s, and the creatine is in my rotation. Like I said, it's just made such a huge difference. I'm like, I'm still kind of in like my self-study of it, because I'm like, okay, what else can I do?
Yeah.
Having a hard conversation and, on creatine, because I feel like my brain sometimes short circuits. But yeah, it's been really incredible. So
but that's why we're doing it.
I know.
So yeah, it's amazing to hear and get feedback from people that are saying and appreciating also that like quality data point.
Yeah.
So they feel like peace of mind of what they're taking on a daily basis, like ourselves. And we wish that there would be some brands out there doing that in chocolate and in rice and in oats. And, there is a few actually coming, I see.
They are,
yeah. So, but that's where we want,
Slowly.
because like as a nerd on the environmental toxin side ourselves, I'm still the only thing I can do for picking like the best chocolate bar is rotation. Because I don't know what the lead levels are. We see in studies sometimes, unfortunately, they are pretty high, but it's like varying where I'm buying from, which is like, I would say we've become a little bit more sophisticated as humankind than that, I would hope. So, but again, these type of high risk of contamination products, that's where I would pay attention.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. We'll see you on the next one. Bye. Thank you so much, Oliver. We appreciate you coming on the show. Again, the brand is Puori. You can get our special discount, 20% off at puori.com/almost30 and use the code almost30. That's puori.com/almost30, code almost30.
Yeah, make sure to send this one to a friend. That's how we've grown. It's also so fun to have people send you podcasts that were interesting or inspiring. You can also listen to Morning Microdose. So we have a Clips podcast that has no ads. It's just daily doses of inspiration for you. It's called Morning Microdose. It's up 5 days a week. So you can dig into that now. It's such a good way to start your morning. You can find us on YouTube. So we have video up on YouTube now, which is really exciting. We will see you on YouTube and then also on Instagram at Almost 30 Podcast. And you can find me on Instagram at It's Krista.
And I'm at Lindsey Simsick. All right, everybody, we'll see you on the next one.
We'll see you soon. Bye, guys.
Bye.